911, what's your emergency?
Yeah, I've got someone who's missing, a worker of mine that we can't seem to find.
Missing from where?
I'm the manager of the Oak Park Apartments, and this worker actually happens to be my sister-in-law. She's 19.
When was the last time anybody saw her?
Around 10:30.
She went out for 5 minutes to run an errand and never came back. Her slippers were torn. Her phone was still in the car. Someone screamed, then nothing. For years, police had no body, no suspect, no answers, until one arrest in another state exposed a predator hiding in plain sight. Don't blink. This is the case that shocked all of Oregon. Brooke Wilberger was a young woman known for her gentleness, intelligence, and quiet strength. Raised in Oregon as the fifth of 6 children, she grew up in a close and loving family that valued faith, hard work, and compassion. From a young age, Brooke faced challenges that shaped who she would become. She struggled significantly with speech as a child, not fully speaking until she was 4 years old. Rather than discouraging her, this experience inspired a lifelong dream. Brooke wanted to become a speech pathologist, determined to help others find their voices and confidence. Academically gifted and athletically inclined, Brooke excelled in school and loved sports such as basketball, snowboarding, and running. She was soft-spoken, but those close to her said she never hesitated to speak up if something felt wrong. Her faith was central to her life. As a devoted member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Brooke carried herself with strong values and a clear vision for her future. At 16, she began dating Justin, a longtime childhood friend who shared her beliefs. Their relationship was steady and serious, grounded in mutual respect. When Justin left on a 2-year church mission to Venezuela, Brooke enrolled at Brigham Young University in Utah, choosing the school in part because it offered one of the nation's strongest speech pathology programs. Her freshman year went smoothly. She adjusted well to college life, formed friendships, and remained focused on her goals. When summer arrived, Brooke returned home to Oregon, eager to work and save money before heading back to school. Her older sister, Stephanie, who managed the Oak Park Apartments in Corvallis with her husband, helped her secure a summer job there. It seemed like the ideal situation. Brooke would perform light maintenance work around the complex and stay with Stephanie for a few days at a time. She was surrounded by family, in a familiar environment, doing safe and straightforward work. On the morning of May 24th, Brooke reported for her shift as usual. One of her tasks that day was cleaning outdoor light fixtures around the apartment complex. At around 10 a.m., Stephanie glanced out her window and saw Brooke filling a bucket with water. She was dressed casually, wearing flip-flops, preparing to clean the lights. The sisters had made plans to have lunch together later that afternoon. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. As the morning passed, Stephanie became busy preparing lunch for her children and lost track of time. When she finally looked at the clock, it was already past 1 p.m. Brooke had not returned. At first, Stephanie was unconcerned. Brooke might have been delayed, speaking with a tenant or finishing a task. Trying to keep things light, she gathered her children and jokingly suggested they go look for her. As Stephanie walked through the complex, her sense of ease quickly dissolved. Near one of the lampposts, she saw Brooke's cleaning supplies still sitting there. The bucket of water remained untouched. Then she noticed Brooke's flip-flops on the ground nearby. They were torn, muddy, and damaged. The straps appeared ripped, as though Brooke had been pulled out of them while trying to stay where she was. The sight immediately filled Stephanie with dread. She called her husband, and together they searched the area more thoroughly. When they checked Brooke's car parked nearby, another alarming detail emerged. Brooke's phone, wallet, and bag were all inside her locked vehicle. She had not taken any of her belongings with her. By around 3 p.m., it became clear that this was not a misunderstanding or a delay. Stephanie called 911.
What's your emergency?
Yeah, I've got someone who's missing, a worker of mine that we can't seem to find.
Missing from where?
I'm the manager of the Oak Park Apartments, and this worker actually happens to be my sister-in-law. She's 19.
When was the last time anybody saw her?
Around 10:30.
Police responded immediately. Lieutenant Ron Noble later explained that while adults are generally free to come and go, this case stood out. Brooke was responsible, reliable, and not the type of person to disappear without telling anyone where she was going, especially not during a work shift. Officers quickly began canvassing the apartment complex. Several residents reported hearing a scream around 10:30 a.m., but no one had witnessed anything suspicious. Whatever happened to Brooke Wilberger had happened quickly, in broad daylight, without leaving behind obvious witnesses. Within hours, the case escalated. Police went door to door, interviewing residents, while other investigators began reviewing registered sex offenders in the area, nearly 2,000 individuals. The FBI was called in, and search efforts expanded rapidly. Volunteers combed through fields, wooded areas, and nearby roads. Brooke's boyfriend Justin was contacted overseas and quickly ruled out. He was confirmed to be in Venezuela, and the news of Brooke's disappearance devastated him. As days turned into weeks, fear spread through Corvallis. Parents worried for their children. Students became hyper-aware of their surroundings. The community was gripped by one terrifying question: if someone could abduct a young woman in the middle of a safe apartment complex in daylight, who would be next? Despite massive search efforts and national attention, Brooke Wilberger did not return home. And with each passing day, the hope of finding her alive slowly began to fade. As weeks turned into months with no sign of Brooke Wilberger, the investigation began to shift from urgent rescue to long-term pursuit. Search parties slowly thinned, and leads that once felt promising faded into silence. Statistically, investigators knew the odds were worsening with every passing day. Yet the case refused to go cold. Too many details suggested violence, and too many people believed that whoever took Brooke was still out there. Early in the investigation, police began receiving reports that would later prove crucial. Several witnesses described seeing a dark green minivan, possibly a late 1990 S model, driving erratically around Corvallis and near Oregon State University on the day Brooke vanished. One man had even called 911 to report the vehicle for dangerous speeding. A university employee recalled seeing a green minivan with out-of-state plates parked on campus, where the driver appeared to be harassing a female student. Another student reported that a similar vehicle pulled in front of her, the driver asking for directions before opening the back door, causing her to flee in fear. At the time, investigators could not identify the driver or confirm whether the vehicle was connected to Brooke's disappearance. Still, the image of the minivan lingered in the background of the case, a shadow without a name. Months passed. Then, in November 2004, more than 1,400 miles away in Albuquerque, New Mexico, a call came in that would change everything. A woman named Dara was driving with her daughters when they saw a young woman running naked and hysterical across a busy road. She was screaming, terrified, and desperately trying to pull open the doors of a nearby restaurant. Dara stopped immediately and helped the woman into her car, then called 911. The woman was a 22-year-old Russian foreign exchange student. Through tears, she explained that she had been grabbed from behind while walking, a knife pressed to her throat. Her attacker, a tall, broad white man with a shaved head and beard, dragged her into his car, sexually assaulted her, and tied her up using her own shoelaces. He then drove into an apartment complex and left the car to go inside a nearby apartment. Miraculously, the woman managed to free herself and run for her life. She provided police with a detailed description of the attacker and his vehicle, a distinctive car with unusual interior details that officers could not ignore. Within hours, police identified a suspect, Joel Patrick Courtney, a 38-year-old married father of 3 living in a suburb of Albuquerque. Joel Courtney was arrested just blocks away. Inside his vehicle, officers found a knife and a crack pipe. A background check revealed that Courtney was a convicted sex offender with a criminal history dating back to the early 1990s, including sexual assault, drug offenses, and repeated violence. He had lived all over the country from Alaska to Florida to Oregon, drifting from job to job, leaving destruction behind him. As detectives in New Mexico built their case, one investigator noticed disturbing parallels to the Brooke Wilberger disappearance. The victims shared similar physical features. The method of attack, sudden abduction, knife threat, sexual assault, was eerily familiar. The timing, too, raised alarms. When Oregon authorities were contacted, they made a chilling discovery. Joel Courtney had been in Corvallis, Oregon, on the very day Brooke vanished, visiting family. The dark green minivan suddenly had a driver. Investigators soon located the vehicle Courtney had been using in Oregon. It was, unmistakably, a dark green minivan, the same type described by multiple witnesses months earlier. The van was seized and transported for extensive forensic testing. It was completely dismantled, every surface swabbed, every fiber examined. The results would take months. When they finally came back, they were devastating. Brooke Wilberger's DNA was inside the van. Blonde hairs matching Brooke were found inside one of Courtney's bags. The evidence also confirmed that Brooke had been sexually assaulted. Although Brooke's body had not yet been found, authorities publicly announced what her family had long feared. Brooke Wilberger was presumed dead. In July 2005, a Benton County grand jury returned a sweeping indictment. Joel Patrick Courtney was charged with 19 counts, including multiple counts of aggravated murder, aggravated kidnapping, first-degree rape, sexual abuse, and sodomy. Under Oregon law, the charges carried the possibility of the death penalty. However, Courtney was already facing prosecution in New Mexico for the abduction and rape of the exchange student. He was sentenced to 18 years in prison. Throughout his sentencing, Courtney showed open contempt for the court, mocking the process and insulting the judge. His behavior only strengthened investigators' resolve. Behind bars, Courtney played a cruel game. He denied knowing Brooke, denied harming her, yet hinted that authorities would never hold him accountable. To his own mother, he reportedly said, "They'll never prove it." He knew exactly what he had the location of Brooke's remains, and he weaponized that knowledge. Years passed. By 2010, Courtney was facing trial in Oregon and the very real possibility of execution. Prosecutors made a deal. If Courtney would lead them to Brooke Wilberger's body, the death penalty would be taken off the table. For months, he refused. Only after suffering repeated assaults in prison and being denied medication did Courtney finally agree. In exchange for serving his life sentence without parole and avoiding execution, he would tell investigators where Brooke was. More than 5 years after she disappeared, Courtney led authorities to a remote wooded area in Benton County, approximately 12 miles west of where Brooke had been abducted. Her remains were found hidden beneath a fallen tree on private property, deliberately concealed. Brooke was identified through dental records and by a small but heartbreaking detail: a silver watch her mother, Cammie Wilberger, had given her for Christmas. In court, Courtney finally admitted what he had done. He confessed that on the morning of May 24, 2004, he had been driving around Corvallis looking for a young woman. He admitted attempting to abduct 2 other female students earlier that day. When he saw Brooke alone, cleaning light fixtures, he pretended to be a delivery driver to lure her closer. He abducted her at knife point, bound her with tape, sexually assaulted her, and drove her into the woods. He kept her alive overnight before beating her to death. He claimed he had not planned to kill her until she fought back. Joel Patrick Courtney was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. For the Wilberger family, justice did not bring peace, but it brought truth. Brooke's mother spoke of gratitude that her daughter had finally been found, that she could be brought home. The family chose dignity over hatred, even expressing relief that Courtney would never hurt another woman. The loss, however, remains immeasurable. Brooke went from washing streetlights and planning lunch with her sister to entering a nightmare in a matter of minutes. Her story became a defining chapter in Corvallis, not one of fear, but of remembrance. Brooke Wilberger is remembered not for how she died, but for who she was: a young woman with faith, kindness, and a future that should have been long and full. Her case stands as a reminder of how quickly ordinary moments can turn irreversible and why vigilance, community, and truth matter.